This is exercise 23 from chapter 3. It says movies by genre and rating. Here's a table that classifies movies released in 2005 by genre and MPAA rating. Okay, and it shows you that there's 4 different ratings out there: G, PG, PG-13, and R, and 4 different kinds of movies that they categorize them as: action adventures, comedies, dramas, thrillers, and horrors. Okay, and one of the assumptions we're making here is that a movie is categorized into only one class. Okay, we have no movies that will fit into 2. Okay, even if it fit into 2, we just pick one and we say this movie is an action adventure, not a comedy or drama or something. So maybe Shrek is action adventure, even though there's elements of comedy, it's action adventure. I guess Shrek 2, maybe 2005, I have no idea. Alright, question A says, the table gives column percents. How could you tell from the table itself? Okay, and we know it's column percents because the columns add up to 100%. Okay, each of these, if you add these up, they add up to 100%. If they were row percentages, if we add them up across the row would add up to 100%, but we see that's not the case here. Thriller and horror, 19.6 plus 21.1 adds up to something like 40.7, not 100%. Okay, and if they were table percentages, the entire table, all 16 of these numbers, would add up to 100%. And we can see that if we were to add up all of these numbers here, that would add up to something much bigger. It would actually add up to 400%. So these are column percentages because the columns add up to 100. So that's our answer. Columns add to 100%, which means they're column percentages. Part B asks, what percent of these movies were comedies? So what percent of all movies were comedies? Okay, and to get this answer, we can't just add these numbers up or anything like that. We just have to go to the total column here. Okay, so these are already column percentages. We don't have the actual counts of the movies. So even though this is 66.7 of G-rated movies were action adventures and 33.3, so basically 2/3 were action adventures and 1/3 were comedy movies in this category. We don't know if that was 2 movies and 1 movie, so for a total of 3 movies that were G-rated, or if there were 6 movies that were G-rated. We have no idea. Okay, we don't know the actual counts. We just know that these are the final percentages, and that the total number, or the total percentage for the comedies was 31.7%. So the answer here is 31.7% of movies were comedies. Okay, and maybe I'll write in 2005. Okay, C asks, what percentage of PG-rated movies were comedies? Okay, so now we're limiting ourselves just to the PG column, and we want to know what percent were comedies. Okay, and we can see that according to the column, 60% of PG-rated movies were comedies. Okay, so 60% of PG movies comedies. Okay, and notice that question, or that statement, is different from saying 60% of comedies were PG related movies. Okay, in order to make some kind of statement like that, we would need row percentages. Row percentages add up to 100% in the row, and that number would be different. Okay, it probably would not be 60% of comedies were PG. Okay. Alright, and D asks, which of these can you learn from the table? And we have I, and IV. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, and 4 in lowercase Roman numerals. Okay, so part 1 says the percentage of PG-13 movies that were comedies. Okay, so we have the column percents, which means we can actually tell that the percentage of PG-13 movies that were comedies was 35.7. Two asks for the percentage of dramas that were R-rated. Okay, so dramas we don't have the row percentages, so we don't know what percentage of dramas were R-rated. So the answer is can't tell. Okay. And part 3 is very similar. It says what percentage of dramas that were G-rated. Okay. And again, we don't have row percentages, so you'd think we can't tell. However, this is a 0 here, so even though we don't have the percentages of dramas that were G-rated, okay, we know that there were 0 G-rated movies that were dramas, so definitely there were 0 dramas that were G-rated, okay. So in the R-rated movie case for part 2, we couldn't tell because we don't know the actual count here, but over here, because it's a 0%, we know the actual count is 0, and so we can actually say this is 0%. And finally, we want to know the percentage of 2005 movies that were PG-rated comedies, okay? So we want to know the entire table total, the table percentage for this cell right here, PG-related comedies. And again, we don't have the actual counts of these movies or these counts or these cells, and so we can't tell on this one. And that is problem 23.